Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so, our only agenda item, which is a big one, but an important one, is to prepare for the workshop for Saturday. I know Anne was hoping to join us, on Zoom, so hopefully she can join in. I don't know about Carla and Sherry though. And just a big thanks to Emily and Aaron for doing all the work to get the word out and all the prep, obviously, but particularly to get the word out to folks. So we've got it on the website, out on the town site. We sent out a text my gov message. We put it part of places on Facebook. So it was sent a press release. So hopefully people will see it. But yeah, so what do you need from us?
So I have some stuff I want you to give me the okay on, but I also want to go through the draft agenda and who's doing what. So I figured we can start with that and then I'll go over the individual activities. You were pass that to Peter and then but you don't, yes. So I have the participant agenda as the first piece in this packet. It's kind of short and sweet. We're gonna do just a welcome and introduction to the comp plan update process, then explain the workshop format and each activity. We'll spend about 45 minutes doing the 3 activities, which is the investing in the planning box, the sticker activity with the statements, and the coloring corner. And then we'll come back together for the last about almost an hour to review and discuss results. So this is an agenda that will be given to the public when they walk in, and then the kind of crazy looking one that starts on page 2 of the handout I just gave you is the organizer's agenda. So as Sarah just mentioned, things we've already completed is noticing of the workshop. The planning bucks have been printed and trimmed. They look fantastic. Aaron's connected with Dwayne at the rec center to get microphones, tables, every chair is secured for us. We're gonna have hard copies of the survey printed and ready to have on hand at the workshop, and Aaron's ordered the snacks and beverages. So between now and the day of the workshop on Saturday, I want to finalize the statements for the stoplight sticker exercise, which we can do this evening, as well as the bucket headers for the investing of the planning dollars. And then Thursday and Friday, I will spend finalizing the workshop materials, so putting the statements on the posters, finalizing, Aaron's already got a good start on this, but the envelopes that are gonna have the stickers, the planning box, the instructions, the coloring pages will be printed it agenda, as long as there aren't any changes tonight. I was gonna make some name tags for comp plan committee volunteers, so it's easy to identify for people in the audience who to go to if they have a question. And then I have to make the investment buckets. My first question was, do we have any more pretzel buckets? But I don't see anyone bringing me any tonight, so I will come up with a different solution tomorrow morning. And I might be invoicing the town, but that's not it's not a heavy lift. And then the only other 2 items would be, and they don't necessarily have to be done before the meeting, but the first would be, if someone wants to check to see if we want to hang the drawings that we get from the coloring corner, if the young artists are willing to share their work, either at the library, the community center, here at the town office. I just think it would be a nice, kind of visual display for residents that might not be able to participate on Saturday. Okay. And then I didn't know if we had any shutterbugs in our comp plan committee that might be willing to take photos the day of the workshop. That way we can, visually get some.
I thought Ann said she usually.
I think she.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure
Bob might be there. I didn't know.
I can act.
Okay. Cause I think it would be nice to be able to incorporate some of those photos in the actual plan. As well as, post like a press release afterwards.
Yeah, and so particularly for workshops after this, if people are not so sure what it looks like.
Right, they'll be able to see it.
Okay, so Aaron, you'll reach out to Bob.
Yeah, I can work. That's possible.
Awesome. So then the date of the workshop itself is from 2 to 4. We can get into the room starting at 1 to set up. I know Erin, you said you were gonna be picking up the catering at 1 and then heading over. I'll plan on being there at 1. Okay, I'll bring the supplies and stuff with me so that we can get the room set up, and then I figured, comp plan committee members, we could have a few at the door to hand out workshop materials as people are coming in. Welcome. That'd be fantastic. I know sometimes we have some early birds, so that way we can get them in and ready to go. So we start the workshop at 2 with a welcome. Sarah, I was gonna have you just welcome everyone as the chair. Thank them all for participating, and then I was gonna give a brief, overview of the purpose and process of a comp plan update, as well as the valuable role that public participation plays in this process.
Perfect.
Then we roll right into explanation of the format and each activity, so we're not trying to make this kind of a boring, just conversation, we want it to be fun. And so describing, kind of giving an overview of each activity and the instructions for each. And then we'll give about 45 minutes, so about from 2:15 to 3 for people to do those activities, grab a snack, chat with one another. And so what I was envisioning during that activity time would be that comp plan committee members would be available to assist participants to help understand directions, answer questions. If they lose their clicker, we can give them more.
Yep.
As well as participate yourself. And then I volunteered at the last meeting to man the coloring corner, if no one else wants to volunteer for that activity, so, you can count me in.
Do you have another?
Oh, sure.
I feel like we should be able to get some, so you don't have to.
That's fine. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a mad rush, so. I can do other things.
That'll be a nice problem to have. if it
Exactly.
is.
And then I figured if anyone wants to just snap a couple pics, although if Bob's there, that would be great. That way the comp plan committee members can focus on participating, as well as assisting people in the room. So then at 3 o'clock roundabout, we'll come back together to review and discuss the results. Erin and Sarah, you had both agreed to tally the planning bucks. And so while you're doing that, I was gonna invite the artists up to, review their artwork and share what their favorite thing of Wiscasset is. And for those that might not remember, this is gonna be the coloring sheet, which is, my favorite thing about Wiscasset is. And then there'll be crayons, which Erin grabbed, for people to color in, the artist young and old.
That would be interesting.
Exactly, I'll be curious.
We get those color.
Yeah, hopefully, the adults will be coloring things that they love. So I'll leave that discussion to give you and Erin time to total the investment dollars, as well as I know Peter and Sherry had agreed to tally the number of green, yellow, and red stickers that are gonna be on each statement poster. So as we start to get those results in, I'll probably start with the statement posters, just because I think those are gonna be quicker to tally than the planning bucks. And so we'll review the results with attendees and ask participants that are willing to elaborate on their response. Given that we're giving this about an hour, it's not gonna be like a in the weeds kind of discussion for each of those, because we do have a number of posters to get through. And then same thing goes for when we go through the planning buck responses, we're gonna go over how much went into each investment category and ask people to share why they put that money into the bucket. I know at our last meeting, we had talked about when we were tallying it, to tally both the total, but as well as by denomination. That I think I would like to keep just the tally for this one. That denomination thing will be further analysis, so we'll keep but when you count them, just throw the bucks back in the bucket, so I have them there to then tally the denominations later and do further analysis.
Okay.
And same thing during the conversation, if someone's there to take photos, that would be great. And then also we were gonna have, Sarah, I know you volunteered to bring your audio software to record, and Anne was gonna be a backup note taker so that we can capture those responses as they're coming in. And then last few minutes will just be a thank you and next steps. So Sarah, I was gonna turn it over to you if you're comfortable with that, to thank everyone for attending. Ask anyone that hasn't filled out the survey yet to do so. And then share that we will be doing future workshops and for people to keep their eyes peeled for those announcements as the year progresses. And then we'll be cleaning up.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. How's everyone feeling about this? Does this sound
This is great.
reasonable? Is it everyone comfortable?
I do have a question, well, a couple questions, but, one. For the big question, does somebody wanna like make a little presentation of like sort of preliminary results of the survey, or do we wait to a different time?
My feeling is this is a lot already,
Fine,
and I'd be a little worried to do that as well, because there's a lot of information that you've gotten out of that survey result already.
that's fine. And then the other question was just, it's just more housekeeping. You want me to make tally sheets?
Oh, no, that's on my to-do list. Thank you, though. Just because I know what I'm gonna be looking for on how to tally, so I'll put that together for you.
So one question, when the people come
Mhm.
to the meeting, what are they going to be handed?
So I'm doing. Hold up. So Erin started putting together these envelopes. And in them, there's stickers. There's also gonna be, we haven't stuffed them yet, but Erin got our Monopoly money printed. So everyone's gonna get $1,500 in Monopoly money. It's Monopoly rules, so I have the denominations ready to stuff in the envelopes. And then there's gonna be, which we'll get to in a minute, these little quarter sheet instructions for each of the activities. We'll go over this in person too, but at least that way they're in the envelope, as well as an agenda. So when they walk in, you're gonna greet them and hand them an envelope with all of their activity materials and meeting agenda.
And then you will explain to everybody as a group what's happening.
Well, I'll welcome everybody and then Emily will be the one explaining the individual activities.
Do we know who's coming? Will we get the outreach or?
So, it's hard to tell. I was mentioning that it's on the website, we did a text my gov, we did a press release. It's been lots of places on Facebook, I'm gonna send it out to all the emails I have in my universe, which is probably 300 or 400. I'm gonna ask Terry to send to her Friends of Wiscasset list, if she hasn't already. There are like 40 people interested or going on the Facebook event,
Oh, good.
which is decent. And it looks like the weather is not gonna be awesome, so
Yeah, I know, I was just
that's
gonna
good,
say,
yes. We do not want a 75-degree day. Yeah. Yeah, so,
We've estimated for 75, so I think if we get more than that, I'll have a moment of panic, but then we'll rally and we'll make it work. We'll have probably some extra stuff on hand, and even I'll bring some colored markers, so if we run out of stickers, we can give people red, green, and yellow markers to color. But
so we're hopeful.
yeah,
Yeah, great.
any other questions on the agenda before we move to the activities?
I just wanted to ask, you want me to make copies of the survey? I know I left about 30 or 40 already at the rec center and library. About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you can have it. That would be great.
Well, yeah, you said you wanted some.
Toast.
Right.
Yeah, I thought you had already done it, but I think I misconstrued that as you had already dropped some off,
And
so
Well, I did.
bring more.
Oh, I can bring more.
And I still have the sheet from the Earth Day thing with the QR code on it, so I can bring that.
Oh, great,
But the
okay,
best people want.
that's perfect, too.
All right,
Did you get the burning question from a copy of the burning question? Ian,
No, I did.
you did,
Yep,
okay.
we'll roll into that one next, if you guys are ready. Um.
Bernie, I don't remember, I know we talked about it, Bernie.
That's all right, we'll go over it again.
Thank you, sir.
The important question for future. Kind of, well, different departments.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Peter, I think I gave Peter two by accident. Okay. So the first thing stapled here is the instructions for this. I'm calling them stoplight stickers just because red, yellow, and green automatically in my mind thinks of a stoplight. And I needed a little graphic that was free and not licensed, so that's what we want. But essentially the instructions these are gonna go in the envelope along with the stickers. And it says around the room, you'll see posters hanging on the wall. Each poster has a statement. You've been supplied with green, yellow, and red dot stickers. For each statement, you will place either a green, yellow, or red sticker on the poster in response. Green indicates that you agree with the statement. Yellow indicates some hesitation or caution about the statement, and red indicates disagreement with the statement. So then I took burning questions that I got from people. There were a few that came in, and I turned them into a statement for which people are either going to agree, disagree, or have that yellow caution. I'm not sure I agree with this or not. So for natural resources, Anne sent me two questions, and I kind of merged them and then wordsmithed with her to come up with a statement, which for natural resources is Wiscasset's rural setting is an asset, and it is important for the town to protect its natural resources, such as the Sheepscot River, groundwater and surface waters, forests, farmland, and wildlife habitats. So that sticker is gonna be on a big sticky pad poster that's hanging on the wall, and people will go up with their stickers and say, yep, I agree. Wiscasset's rural setting is an asset, and we do need to protect our natural resources, or they're gonna say no, or I don't know. Anne also sent me, I know she worked with you, Peter, on the historic and archaeological resources. So the questions that you would come up with were, do you value Wiscasset's historic character? And should Wiscasset do more to protect its picturesque village and historic public places? So I took those questions, again, turned them into a statement that says, Wiscasset's historic character is valuable, and we should do more to protect our picturesque village and historic public places. Again, people will respond how they feel about that. Waterfront, I worked with them on a statement, so they didn't give me burning questions that I converted, but the statement that we've kind of landed on for with the waterfront committee is we should invest in our waterfront to increase public access and recreational opportunities for residents and visitors. Climate, same thing. I worked with Cassie and the climate action team to come up with a statement. They were fantastic. They came up with like 2 really detailed burning questions, and then we kind of pulled back a little bit to have more of a higher level statement rather than like, we should do X, Y, and Z, but rather the statement that's proposed is Wiscasset's resilience to a changing climate should be a common theme throughout the comprehensive plan, both in the chapter inventories to understand our current risks and potential impacts, as well as a focus of our future goals and strategies. People will either say yes, no, or maybe to that. So those are the ones I got. And then I started to come up with suggested statements for these other categories, and I want to get your thoughts on them. So for economy, I just going through the checklist that the state puts out for what we have to look at for the economy chapter. I put together the following suggestion. The town maximizes its unique assets, waterfront, the prettiest little village in Maine, electrical infrastructure, access to Route 1, etc., for economic growth. People can agree or disagree with that statement. Now, keep in mind, these statements are meant to be broad, so people can interpret them how they will, and then the purpose of the second half of the workshop is to get them to elaborate. We also recognize this isn't the only time we're gonna be able to ask them questions. We have the survey and future workshops, but this is more to give us it's like a values exercise. Do people agree with this? Do they think we should, maximize our assets? Have we already? Should we do more? So that was kind of the intent with what I was writing. However, if there is something that is more of a burning question to you than this, please let me know by tomorrow morning so I can put it in as a, actual poster. Carla, I did the same thing with housing, so if you turn the page over, I
Yes.
put just as a suggestion, more housing options are needed so people of all ages and backgrounds can live, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to add and work in our community. If there's something, again, more burning that you have, we can wordsmith it. I would just like it by like noon tomorrow, so I can start putting the posters together.
That's
between
fine.
Thursday, Friday.
I mean, I think that's fine, but it's also the connection to economic development. Like, without more opportunities for housing and a wider workforce, it will, you know, it's gonna affect our opportunities also for much of what's proposed or could be proposed for economic development if people can't afford. Depends what kind. And that's too complicated. I mean, that could be a
Right.
discussion. but-
That's kind of more the background also.
Yeah. But I think in terms of that linkage, you know, the importance of that for other things that, Aaron and, you know, that committee is doing. I did have a question about the working water thing, so it seems to be more, I mean, this is fine, but I would also think, isn't there a business orientation as well?
So that is gonna go into the next thing, where this is a catch-all of all the things that go with waterfront, we'll get there next, but the statement exercise is. You're writing these chapters, if you can only ask the public one question, high level. So that you can help guide your focus as you do the inventory and start to contemplate, what do we need to think about as we start looking at, you know. Writing these inventory chapters. What would you ask them? And so then I take that question and turn it into a statement that they can then put their red, green, and yellow stickies on. We have the second activity, which is investing the planning bucks, and so under, for working waterfront or waterfront, under that, the bucket is gonna say. Investing planning bucks in this category is an investment in supporting commercial fishing such as lobster and clammers, wormers, shellfish. Public access, boat launch, slips, etc., recreational opportunities, creamery pier, commercial and recreation piers, harbor master. So this is a catch-all. If you're investing in waterfront, you're gonna invest in all those things. But their burning question was, do you want to increase, you know, public access and recreational opportunities? So whether
That
it's,
was the committee's burning question?
yes.
Oh, okay. Because I thought when we had that plan before, it was more around the business opportunity of more slips and things like that.
So that's part of it, and the slips go into this, is that that's recreational opportunities and public access. But that can also be if they want to do improvements to the commercial pier, if they want to do improvements to the boat launch. So this question is all encompassing in that it's just waterfront, without getting too in the weeds with delineating every single possible project that they may want to undertake, because we're gonna get to that next layer in another workshop.
Okay, that's great.
The next one, so housing, Carla, are you comfortable
Yeah,
with that? Or do you wanna
I think
wordsmith
for
it
a
little bit?
broad statement, I think it's fine.
Okay. And for, we'll get to it. For people, I did, again, suggested stickers. So this is supposed to be like population demographics. I just shot in the dark, threw this in here, but we can certainly change it, is we should look to develop age-friendly services so older adults continue to live and thrive in Wiscasset. If there are other questions, like if you wanna look at, say, you know,
Childcare.
the focus on, right, childcare, if you wanna focus on seasonality, if you wanna focus on changing demographics, workforce, I mean, that's a big bucket for population and people.
Yeah,
I think that. Singling out older adults is. I think that's a red flag sort of thing, and I think we should be. Not singling out. Older adults, younger adults, middle-aged adults, or whatever, but rather saying, develop age-friendly services, so all adults or all. People can live in Wiscasset can thrive, but
Yeah, I kind of like Peter's, because I mean, the childcare thing is just so important. We don't.
I kind of disagree. I like her question, because I do think that, you can't hide from the fact that we're probably one of the oldest states in the country and.
And we're in the oldest county.
County.
Yeah, we're the oldest county and the oldest state in
Oh,
the United States.
Savicus doesn't beat us this year.
Lincoln County is the number one
Well, regardless, I mean,
represent.
I think that we need to come to terms with that, and we have to maybe make some investments.
So age friendly, and there's another lingo term called intergenerational community building. They're both newer age planning concepts where if you provide services and amenities for older adults, it is a benefit to all generations. Because, for example, if you're putting in sidewalks, someone that, and they're ADA compliant, someone with mobility issues because they're getting older and need to use a walker, someone that's in a wheelchair, my kid, me with a stroller, it's gonna benefit all. My kid, my 5-year-old on a scooter, it's gonna work for everyone. If you can maintain people living in their homes and living in the community where they, were a workforce and raise their family, you have that institutional knowledge. You also have them teaching the younger generation. So that's someone that, maybe has been a plumber for 45 years, they can now have someone come in and be an apprentice with them. Rather than what we have now is a lot of older adults who are looking to downsize. They can't remain in their community because there's no housing stock there for them. There's no services for them to stay in. So they move to another part of the state or another state altogether, and you lose that generational knowledge as well as the intermingling of generations. I didn't use intergenerational community building because I felt like no one would know what that means. But certainly that's just the background on why I came up with that as a suggestion. We can completely change it. And I think, Sarah, you were working on the demographic and population chapter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like me, working on housing.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I also see the benefit of, like, my soapbox for years has been, we keep saying we want younger professionals and families to come in, but yet we schedule all community activities and clubs and social things and all that kind of stuff in the middle of the day on a Tuesday.
Mhm.
And it's like, no one can do that. That's just one example, but, so I think that is important too, in terms of if we're really serious about attracting younger generations.
well, I agree, that's sort of what I'm trying to get at, but if we just, look,
Um,
all it's stated is older adults.
is there a more obvious way to explain intergenerational without saying intergenerational? Cause I agree, I'm not sure if you haven't heard that phrase, you might not be sure what
It means,
it's
right?
referring.
Wouldn't mind a, parentheses or added explanation as age-friendly services such as, whatever you want to pick for, examples for, elders, but I really think the childcare question should be highlighted. We won't provide childcare for everybody, but all over the state, we need more childcare. And that gives a flag that we really want to, attract families as well.
What if we said, do you think people will get it if we said we should look to develop intergenerational services so that all. This is repetitive, but all generations can continue to thrive in Wiscasset. And then in parentheses, for example, childcare, whatever senior services, etc. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Think that's too much, or
Sure, I think I can work with that.
You could just,
Yeah.
just say age-friendly services for all. people
Right.
Of any age in Wisconsin, the childcare, for example, childcare or adult.
Yeah.
And so that's worth thinking. Would you want to say continue to thrive or just can thrive? Because to Carla's point, if we don't have childcare right now, so are we thriving
Yeah,
in that or just leave it as?
I think,
We should develop intergenerational services so all age demographics can thrive in Wiscasset, such as childcare, older adult services, and I can work on
I
that.
think can
Right.
thrive, not can. Aaron, were you gonna say that?
Well, I think that we should have at least one specific one revolve around, aging population. And I do see your point about attracting younger people too, so, I mean. If you create a too broad a question, you don't get to the meat of the problem. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't,
Yeah.
the results aren't helpful.
And the other opportunity, if you wanted to make them two separate questions, so one is for, younger professionals, families, workforce development, that type of thing. I threw something against the wall for public facilities and services / recreation, but I think you could use that as an opportunity, kind of to your point, Sarah, to say like, the services that we offer aren't adequate to meet the needs of young professionals and young families, or something like that. I mean, you would turn it into a positive for people to agree or disagree.
Right.
But I just threw in there, municipal services are adequate to meet changes in population and demographics. And I was trying to get to that idea, but I also didn't want to speak on behalf of the town because I don't use these municipal services. I don't live here. So if there's a different public facilities or services question you would want to ask, otherwise that may be an opportunity for you to address it there.
I do think that's an interesting way to phrase it, in that I would be very curious to hear what the responses are.
Okay.
Cause I think it's very different than how we address public facilities and services in the survey. And I think that's a good thing, but thinking about it from the perspective of how we have changed and are changing. Is it adequate? Rather than just for yourself on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Just wondering if it's covered, sort of part of this, the amenities, like young people who want a little bit more activity in town, later in the evening, that kind of thing. Would that help with certain segments or trying to attract different young people? And that's more amenities. And a lot of that is just, I don't know, I don't have to do many campaigns for trying to attract businesses that do that, but.
Similar to on the same vein, the bucket that I didn't get too many people's suggestions for the buckets. I got one from Waterfront and from, and for historical resources and natural resources, and then Cassie for climate change. So I started to put together other buckets, and I created a people and place bucket, and investing your planning bucks into that bucket would be things like sense of community and community events. Services for older adults, aging population, attracting new diverse residents, options for housing, and then in parentheses, multifamily, single family, affordable, older adult, mixed use, etc. We could also add, like, the sense of community and the community events is kind of similar to the amenities piece
Yeah,
you're
I
talking
think
about, so
that's
we could also add that to the bucket. So not everything has to be captured, that's why we're doing 2 activities. So not everything has to be captured in the question, it can also go in the planning bucket,
I keep
which we'll get to in a minute.
forgetting that part.
That's okay.
Okay, so could we do, on the people one for this, can we do something like we just mentioned with intergenerational, with like a couple of examples in front?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that helps when you can give some examples, so if people aren't quite sure what it means, then they're like, oh, well.
Yeah, I will work on the language, but I have just captured so far is we should develop intergenerational services, so all age demographics can thrive in Wisconsin, and then in parentheses, I know you've given an example, Carla, of childcare, older adult services. I can try and swing amenities into there somehow, but I'll add some for example.
I'm looking at transportation too, these are fine, but one of the big issues, maybe it goes under, the people supporting people, at least the lack of transportation options, particularly for older people that can't drive. We have a little bit of volunteer activity in here, but that becomes a real problem.
We can also put same with the bucket, so again, this is like what's your one burning question? And so as I'm reading the transportation chapter, it would be helpful to know, like, do people have an interest in walking and bicycling facilities? We don't have a lot of those amenities, or is it roads, bridges, and the airport. So that's why I put that as a burning question. We can certainly wordsmith it, but under the transportation bucket, we have roads, maintenance and safety improvement, bridges, pedestrian improvement, cycling infrastructure, airport rail, and we can add public transportation.
Yeah,
To
maybe
that.
I said that last meeting, I go on tangents or I used to go on tangents with looking at specific issues, and I was really big on public transportation and rural Maine.
Yeah. Yeah, for this exercise, we will eventually work our way into the weeds on some of these to really, especially when we get to the goals and strategies piece and understanding where do we want to go and what priorities do we want to take on over the next 10, 20 years. There will be future workshops to start honing in on, are you yes to public transportation, are you no to pedestrian facilities, whatever those ideas that we have that start bubbling up are. This is more of like a getting an understanding of people's values. What do they like about Wiscasset? What would they like to see improved? Where are trouble areas? What are good things that they value? So it's like a values exercise. And this is just a fun way to do it versus asking this big broad question and having people, you know, kind of just go back and forth and we start to, you know, go off the rails a little bit. So we will get there. But I would say if we can keep it broad and a little open so that people can also interpret it, like the municipal services are adequate to meet changes in population and demographics. It's meant to be a little broad so people can say, well, which municipal services am I thinking of? Am I thinking about the rec center, or there's no playgrounds other than one on 27, and I'd like to see maybe one at the waterfront, whatever the services that are applicable to them are. We would ask them, you know, if they agree with this statement or not, and then during the discussion part of the workshop, we would ask them, hey, we've gotten, you know, 30 red stickers and only 3 green. Does anyone green want to say why these services are adequate? And then those that said red, anyone want to share and expand on why you said you disagree with the statement? And I think that's where we'll start to pull out from people more specific examples that will help us with the inventory chapters and eventual goal setting.
Right? You've done this before.
Okay, so for public facilities and service and recreation, how are we feeling about the municipal services question or statement about their adequate to meet changes in population demographics? Is that kind of the committee's burning question, or do you have something specific? Like, is it, you know, do you want to ask specifically about the rec center or the wastewater treatment plant? You know, you have and keep in mind other public facilities and services I've listed in the bucket: emergency services, so police, fire, ambulance, town office, school system, library, recreational facilities, so the rec center, playground, walking trails, the transfer station, water and sewer, and broadband. So it's a catch-all, but so is that chapter.
Is there a question that we could ask that would be useful / broad enough that gets at, I guess, like, this is also sort of this is my overall burning question. Okay, if all things equal, if you want lower taxes, which services do you not want or want lower service of? Like, that's always my question. Is there a way to ask that in the positive / would it be helpful?
Yeah, we had talked in one of the other meetings about the fact that anything that was coming out of this bucket had to go to some other bucket, and what you took out of that bucket was going to a different bucket.
Right,
So it's not like this, we're taking the same amount of money, you want to call it that, and just redistributing it. But I think, I'm not sure that that's clear, but that's what's going to happen if you decide you want all of these various things.
Why would that be a precondition for this, though? Or was the I don't remember, I was probably not here for that, just.
no, it wasn't necessarily a discussion, I just say this fairly frequently, like, that's my question. If somebody says my taxes are too high,
How are you gonna pay for it? Sure.
I wanna know which. Short of having all kinds of business development or something that comes tomorrow that brings our tax burden down, what would you like to let go of?
Yeah.
to lower your taxes.
Yeah,
Like, not in a negative way, but like, yeah. I don't know,
but
or I'm
it
kind of
comes
leaving it
down to
at,
that, that's the bottom
Right.
line, so.
we have lots of services, that is the biggest reason why our taxes are where they are, so. Or I'm fine leaving it the way it is, because like I said, I think that's an interesting question in terms of, I think it might elicit some interesting responses.
Yeah, you could leave it as is, or I was writing as you were speaking, Sarah, you could write a statement like, my priority is to lower taxes by minimizing the amount of services the town offers, examples in parentheses, and then whatever you wanna put. Another way to word it is, and I didn't finish the sentence, but something like, I'm comfortable with my current tax commitment, or the town's current tax commitment, because it offers a wide variety of services. I don't know, I mean, I don't know if that's it's in a positive, I don't know if you're gonna get green or red stickers, but.
I wonder, a lot of town residents think of it that way, what,
My guess is they don't. Slash, I don't think a lot of towns realize how much more we have than other towns in terms of services. Like, they don't
I
realize,
realize it.
I don't think they realize that
Go down the street, yeah, I recognize.
towns don't necessarily have their own EMS or their own fire, police department or whatever it may be,
Right,
so,
right,
anyway.
How about, again, I didn't finish the sentence, but I'm comfortable with my current tax commitment because the town services available, to me are higher or more or desirable.
I think your first question, I think people don't understand tax commitment, that's a little bit, that just means.
Wait, what was the first one you said?
Well, the original was municipal services are adequate to meet changing in population and demographics. Then I did, my priority is to lower taxes by minimizing the amount of services the town offers, and then we would give examples of what they would be cutting out, so I don't know what you would wanna put there. Or you could, essentially what I'm pitching is the opposite, is you would say, I'm comfortable with my current tax commitment because the town services available to me are more significant than what other towns in the area offer. Because, and examples is like EMS, versus using, maybe CLC, the Central Lincoln County Ambulance, or a private, same with, police. You have, your transfer station, you've got the rec center, the library. So it's up to you, but those are the ones I've been throwing up against the wall as you guys have been talking.
Yeah, Eric?
Yeah. My only concern with the final framing there is that as a renter, I don't have tax code, so I'm not sure how to
Approach that, yeah.
Oh, good
Which is why
point.
the middle framing also, or something,
So you like my priority is to lower taxes by minimizing the amount of services the town offers?
because I think a broader set of attendees could answer
Okay, that's a really good point.
it. As a renter, I'm not sure, I don't care if my tax, not that I don't, it will all.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not
point.
a quick connection. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. How would we feel about that?
what's the final word?
So far what I have is my priority is to lower taxes by minimizing the amount of services the town offers, and then I would ask what you want to use as examples.
Or a blend of the two, but just, I didn't
The
like.
beginning part.
I dislike the
Oh,
premise of the last one, it just was that phrasing.
Right.
It's not.
Well, some people talk about shared, EMS, police, whatever, such as. Or, and then, of course, the rec center's always on the block.
Mhm.
Do you have in your bucket over there, do you have a list of what you're considering for?
So what I have listed for public facilities and services is emergency services, and then in parentheses, police, fire, ambulance, town office, school system, library, recreational facilities, and in parentheses, I write rec center, playground, walking trails, etc. Transfer station, water and sewer infrastructure, and broadband.
Should we have broadband on there? We don't do
I
any
mean,
broadband.
you guys have been
In terms of
investing
we
your
haven't
ARPA funds,
actually-
so.
Well, we haven't done it yet. We
Right.
need to do it.
But
I
you
saw
have,
last
you have
night.
committed, you have committed some ARPA funds to it though,
Right.
right?
True.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you have made an investment. It's
Okay.
not a town owned, but.
We've
it's a
got
service
another
you're
round of
helping
money
to-
coming
Yeah.
up, maybe we will get in
I mean, we can certainly take it off, but
Yeah, well, I think as long as you have a list there of what the town businesses are,
Mhm.
that's gonna help people make that decision.
so why don't I didn't wanna hand this out yet, cause I didn't wanna confuse you, but maybe I'm making it more convenient because we don't have this for you. So this is the planning box exercise, where there's gonna be a yet to be determined container, because no one ate pretzels like I asked you to.
Geez, right, we do have the education.
Sorry.
No proposal for education. That's interesting.
That's just because I didn't get to it.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I can get creative. I'm a planner, I can work on my feet. So this is the, again, a little quarter sheet that describes the game. So it says you've just received $1,500 from the town of Wiscasset. Asterisk, not really, this is just a game, have fun. Use the planning box enclosed to invest back into the town. Spend your pretend money in the categories at the investment table. It's your choice how you spend it. It can be the whole amount into the your highest priority bucket or across the 9 categories. In the second part of today's workshop, we'll tally up the dollars spent on each category to see where residents invested their planning box. And then I will have individual headers on each of the boxes that have this in really big writing, but I didn't want to print individual sheets of paper for you to see what that looks like, but it will be on the buckets. And each one will be, pretty big, so you'll go up and read, like, okay, climate initiatives. Putting planning bucks in this bucket is an investment in energy savings, efficiency projects, renewable energy, electrifying buildings and transportation, extreme weather protection, protecting the environment, community health and safety. Waterfront, same thing, and so people will be able to read these and go, okay, I'm gonna throw $50 in there, I'm gonna put my $100 bill in there and a $500 bill in there. But for us to go over them in terms of, are you okay with the buckets and how I put them together and what I listed under them? Because again, the burning question is like, what's the one thing you really, really want to know as you're running your inventory? And then the investing box is broader as an overall category of, or chapter of your comprehensive plan.
You did a good job on that. I do think that it might be a wooden thing.
Which-
Under climate initiatives. Electrified buildings, I feel like we already done.
That we what, I'm sorry, Aaron?
That came from the climate action team. Is everything electrified? Like, is your heat through heat pumps or is it through an oil? Like, they're propane pumps.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Not like the lights, but like the fuel sources.
Right,
Why would-
or even like the electrification would be like, is everything LED or are you still using incandescents?
All right, so I feel like.
I feel like that's already addressed in energy savings and efficiency projects, but. Anyway,
Well, let's hold that thought
Right.
and we'll wordsmith this in a minute. I wanna get the sticker statements done, so I know what I'm writing on all of these posters. In the next day or two.
So for the public facilities and services, so could we use the statement you had?
Questions.
What?
Can I email you some stuff tomorrow morning?
For your statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can we put in parentheses? I guess full-time EMS. Police department, community center, transfer station, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of ones that are a bit more unique than. The other towns don't have necessarily.
Airport.
Yeah. I only hesitate to put that in there because unfortunately, there are a lot of people who still think that we pay for that.
Paid for,
The airport, it
Yeah.
makes money.
Yeah.
I just don't want
Well,
that.
I mean, I think. EMS pretty much, I mean, there's still town subsidizes it, but does generate.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
How
It's
about the library? Does the town put much into the library?
like $50,000 or $60,000. Yeah, the library is a little bit of a quasi. In terms of we don't officially
Yeah.
run it.
Yeah, I gather the endowment is in question. Anyway,
The endowment is what?
that, the rest of the money in terms of the endowment is not keeping up. I heard that someplace.
At the library?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Which might require more town investing if that were the case.
Going with the idea of trying to make it a positive as opposed to a negative, and I liked your idea of kind of blending the two. What if it's, instead of tax commitment, what if it's, I'm comfortable with the costs associated with the municipal services offered as they are greater than other communities, and then in parentheses, example, full-time EMS police department, transfer station and community center.
Then it takes the taxes part out, so.
And I also think if we left it, my only concern with my priority is to lower taxes by minimizing the amount of services the town offers. I think this still gets us there, but it's not as loaded of a way to be like, yeah, I really wanna lower taxes and I'm gonna rail on it at the, public discussion part of the workshop. Versus when you say I'm comfortable with this, some people may agree, and if everyone disagrees, at least you're coming from a positive place and saying, I politely disagree with that, and here's why.
Yep. I like that better.
How are others feeling?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
All right,
and then education, I didn't even take a crack at a suggestion, because I didn't know what your burning question would be, are we talking the amount of, and education can be broad, and I think do we ask about early childhood education? Are we asking about regionalization? Are we asking about current level of services? So I didn't know for this one, what your burning question was to then turn into a statement for people to agree or disagree with. And also if you wanted a separate bucket, because I threw it under, where did I throw it? Public facilities and services. I have the school
I
system.
think it should be a separate bucket. It's
Okay.
such a hot issue.
So then I will need examples of what you would put in, what are you investing in too? Which we'll get to in a minute, but let's start with the sticker statement.
okay.
I mean, didn't the regionalization get the highest percentage of votes? Or what was it at the last one, on the survey?
Oh, it's definitely 90, well, over. Of the 197 who answered the question, 96 strongly agreed with, we should explore a regional high school option, and 27 more were somewhat agreed. So it's definitely trending in that direction. I don't know if we should get that.
Specific.
Yeah, I wonder if it should be something more like,
I have to walk, I have a cramp.
something more around. Wisconsin should explore collaboration with other towns for education or like. That's sort of where I'm going, that's not the. I don't know, something slightly more broad. I don't think we wanna ask. Anything like, I'm happy with the quality of it, well, one, we already have that on
Right.
the survey, and two. I don't think you wanna ask to spend more or less money or whatever, because I think you're,
It's a loaded question.
yeah.
Does that have to be a bucket?
It's a huge bucket though.
It's
I
a
mean,
huge bucket, yeah,
Pardon?
it's a huge
Huge.
bucket, yeah, I think it needs to be.
So for the statement, before we get to the bucket. Wisconsin should explore collaboration with other towns about shared educational resources, opportunities, what are we?
Yeah, given Is it too messy to say, given our declining enrollment? I mean, I think people know that, but.
Or giving our changing demographics.
Did we make up any?
Yes, given our change in demographics, I'd like that.
But supposedly the elementary school is full, so it may be coming up over the years.
Well, it might be
No,
full, that doesn't mean it's large.
This is true. Thank you.
We didn't used to have that many grades in that building, so.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, so I have written, Wisconsin should explore collaboration with other towns about shared educational resources / opportunities given our change in demographics.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Broad, it's
okay.
good, it gets to the issue.
So then if we're looking,
What's that face, Derek?
Well, I think it,
is it too broad?
well, the change in demographics, I think. How exactly has it changed? I'm not sure you have to say that there, but I think it leads to the question like, how has it changed and what does that mean?
Do you think people haven't realized that we are just getting older? I mean, we as a town and account, I mean,
Or changes in enrollment
Mm.
instead of
oh,
demographics?
maybe, yeah, enrollment.
Well, then the next question is how has it changed the enrollment? I mean,
I think that's what you're asking, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I guess like. When I hear like. Change in demographics, I don't know if I'm supposed to be referencing like, oh, is there a number that I should know about like our population? has-
Oh,
Demographic has shifted in this direction or something? Or is it something I should have just like picked up on in the ether?
Do you wanna say decline?
Well, we've been pretty old for a
Yeah.
while.
I mean, is it negative to say declining enrollment? Is there another way to say declining enrollment that means declining enrollment? I just hate using the word declining because it is.
A negative word.
Right.
And I, well,
If they changes in the role.
and I guess the other thing is like. As someone who's only lived in town almost 7 years next week or something like. I might be thinking, oh wow, did it change that much in the last 3 to 5 years? Or someone else might be thinking, wow, it really has changed a lot in the last 45.
Yeah,
It's more a longer term trend,
Right,
you know, because,
but as a 7-year long resident or 3-year long resident, answering your question.
I mean, the state's been old for a long time, but now we're.
Decreasing, it's still a negative, but it's less than declining, like
Okay.
decreasing enrollment.
Well,
Well,
can't you say
sure.
just changes in the role?
because people don't necessarily know what that means.
They don't know if it's changed in a positive, like enrollment's increased, or if it's gone down.
What was your?
Put that on the low sheet.
What was my original fix?
No, yeah, you just said something that,
Decreasing enrollment?
yes,
Instead of declining?
that says it.
Yeah, that's a little less negative.
Or
Does
could you
that-
say like decades long demographic shifts or something like that, like something that helps us.
Well,
I do worry that people aren't gonna necessarily know that though.
but I mean, we could put a few facts out, like,
We're not doing that for any of the others though.
I got 2 days to make these posters from.
I would do,
No, I think maybe decreasing enrollment.
yeah.
It sounds less negative, but then people, even if
Know
they're
that it's
totally
going down.
unaware, they now know it's gone down.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Okay. All right, Erin, do you want to wordsmith economy now, or do you want to just email me tomorrow? Okay. I'm just gonna look at it.
No, Peter, to your point, we can't really mix the exercises in terms of. They're related, but what it says in the bucket for schools is not the same as what we're asking in the question on the stoplight thing, so.
But no, I understand that.
Okay, we needed things in the bucket for school system.
Yeah, so with the bucket, I want to make sure you're comfortable with the instructions. If you want me to change anything, I will, but otherwise I'll start printing those. And then this is just to give you an overview. So I already wordsmithed, the historical and archaeological resources and natural resources with Anne. I will add public transportation under the transportation bucket.
Okay.
Then, waterfront, I worked with the waterfront committee on that one. The climate initiative, I worked with the climate action team on that one. So if we're starting with public facilities and services, we'll talk in a minute about creating its own bucket for education / school system. But are there any other public facilities you want me to add, or is this it doesn't have to be everything, but is it enough to get the sense of, okay, this is what public facilities and services need?
I know you mentioned, there's a whole section of like with transportation, but I still feel like public works or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say public works in some way.
And then I think you should probably add parks underneath the recreational facilities like parks, rec center, and playground. And it might sound stupid, but. Yeah, I'm sorry, it just came right to me and it's just sticking with me, the electrified buildings thing, but I mean, I'm hopefully with whatever.
It's the language that's being used now.
Well,
That the electrified language is being used now pretty broadly, I think. At least I hear it.
It does sound funny.
Do you want it
That's what
to
it's-
be like in parentheses, shifting from fossil fuels? I mean, I can get on my soapbox and say that electricity is still generated by fossil fuels, so you're not really shifting from it, but shifting from oil / propane to clean electricity,
sure,
and I would run that by Cassie.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's more.
So the
explicit.
initial reaction I had too was, well, we already have electricity, I don't know what we're doing.
What is like
I think
1920s?
that's clearer, making those,
Adding that, so saying shifting from oil to / propane.
I mean, if
Yep.
you're not familiar with the ongoing lingo now.
Yeah.
then
So I will make that change and get her sign off. I will add parks and public works under public facilities and services. I will remove school system and create its own bucket, which we'll get to in a second. Is there any other public facilities and services you want to specifically call out here?
I just want to make sure you understood when I said parks. I thought-
It's the under the parentheses, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yep, I got it.
You're taking the school system out and you're making a separate bucket for that?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think that's the suggestion on the table.
Yeah, I think this covers everything. I'm looking at our list on the survey and I think that's everything we need. And
Okay.
other stuff is covered elsewhere.
Okay.
Other places.
So then if we were to create an education / schools bucket, what would you want to put underneath it as the subheadings? So
I mean,
people know
you
what
could-
they're investing dollars in. Are we adding, early childhood education?
I think you could sort of go along with what the budget is in terms of like. Teacher and support staff salaries and or what, I mean, however you wanna word that, Career and technical education, early childhood education, trying to think of the budget categories.
Extracurriculars?
Yes, extra and co-curricular activities,
Special education.
special education, yes.
I think, yeah, you get to the other head, extracurricular, because that was a
You said
topic of
extra
conversation.
and
Extra and co-curricular, yeah.
Okay, special education.
Yeah,
the stuff like, advanced placement, is that a separate budget item in the school
No.
budget? It's not.
Oh, what do you call that?
not in terms of
Adult education? maybe?
adult education.
Okay, just other,
Oh, career.
other education.
I got career / technical education.
Oh, good.
You wanna say anything about the number of students coming in from other towns to the Wisconsin school system?
No,
Not an issue?
Well,
Whoa.
we'd like it to be an issue.
yeah, that's. But I'm not sure,
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
enough about that.
no, I don't think it would work in the bucket, the bucket is just sort of to explain
What it is.
what we currently pay for. In the
And what
school
you would
budget.
be investing in.
Right.
If you put your, $1,500, if you threw some money in there. you're investing in education, which includes an investment in, and I have early childhood education, teacher/support staff salaries, career/technical education, extra and co-curricular activities, special education, adult education.
Wanna, light this fuck on fire,
No,
superintendent's office.
yeah, no, I didn't say administration. I mean, it is, these are just supposed to be examples, right?
Examples,
It's not
it's
supposed
not-
to cover every single line of.
Yeah.
Of a budget.
Okay.
Within these, so.
Okay, so I will add that bucket. And then, I threw together economy, people in place and land use. I don't think we need a land use bucket, but I was, especially if you wanna create education. With education, we'd be at 10, which I think is still doable. I would just update the, instructions to 10 categories. So for economy, again, I just threw this together, you can wordsmith it with me, but I put in, Route 1 development, downtown/tourism, workforce, commercial/industrial development, redevelopment of certain properties, TIF districts. You can change any of those again before noon tomorrow, so.
And I actually like this, I mean, the
Okay.
only thing that I thought maybe would be separate is tourism, but from downtown, but it isn't.
Easy enough. I don't think
That was my thought, that. I
that
think-
were the two.
I think. Personal desire is to see the downtown serve a lot more than merely a tour, or like solely a tour.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's a disservice to the community.
I don't know that people know what TIF districts are.
I threw it in, we don't have to include it. 'cause I-
No, I think it's good to include, I just.
Where do you have to, oh, down here.
Yeah, their economy.
Would we,
Could we at
Well,
least spell it
tax
out?
Yeah, we
Might at least, because I didn't really know what they were before I was on the board.
maybe we should have like a little workshop.
I think it'd be, have we used,
Then-
have we used tips here?
Yeah, you have one for the,
Senior living,
senior living.
Oh, this one, okay.
And then I believe there's one out,
Like.
yeah, Mullingy out there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good times.
That's right, that discussion was happening a while ago, when they started presenting. When's their grand open,
Who?
the senior facility?
Oh, this fall.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the people in place looks good.
Okay, do you wanna add anything to that, or is that, again, this is flavors to capture what you would be investing in, it doesn't have to be everything. And I know that bucket is kind of a big one, but it's meant to capture like demographics as well as like sense of community.
I mean, maybe the one thing that, Carla's beyond, is actually supported is childcare. But I
Do
don't
you
know.
wanna put early childhood education and then childcare? That is kind of
Or, yeah.
under education, or do you want it under people?
It's actually under both.
Well,
It's the quality of the
the
education.
education piece would be the early childhood, education, but I'm thinking like, maybe after school care, childcare.
Well, it's
That,
it's the labor force behind the labor forces.
I don't know,
People have understood it better in the pandemic.
maybe it's. the same.
It's a workforce issue, actually, childcare.
So you could then put it under economy, people in place, or education.
Yeah, I would put it
I
under-
would
I
put
would
it
put
under
it
all
under
three,
there,
because people are gonna
workforce.
get confused.
No, I wouldn't put under 3.
and I wouldn't put it under education.
I feel like that's more of a people in place thing, but.
Excuse me, did you separate downtown and tourism?
Yes, I did, I captured that, thank you for checking.
I think, it's just they overlap, obviously, childhood and people in place, but also the importance of it for workforce. How many women can't work because they don't have sufficient or accessible childcare? So it goes in both of them, actually, but we've seen a rise in the attention to it, given what we saw in the pandemic, and a whole lot more money go into it.
Well, I think workforce probably go more than just childcare, I think
Oh, it
that
does,
occurs
for
training
sure.
too.
Part of it is just getting more and more bodies here who are eager to work.
So getting new bodies here falls under attracting new / diverse residents. Economy you could do like we've done in others, if you put workforce and then in parentheses, training. Daycare.
Yeah, I kinda like that,
Something like that.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
cause there are all kinds of things on here that go under multiple.
Yeah.
So there's no,
Anything
Perfect.
else you wanna list as an example for workforce, training, childcare?
it's like,
Under redevelopment, maybe I was just thinking Mason Station, Maine Yankee, and, Old Ferry Road property, like in parentheses, I don't know if that matters.
Which one are you looking at?
Under economy, if we're gonna put
Oh, I
parentheses
see.
and stuff, just Mason Station. Maine Yankee and,
Do you wanna do town-owned properties and would Maine Yankee be one of them? Or are we just doing certain properties?
well, we don't own Mason Station.
That's what I'm saying, you write redevelopment of certain town-owned properties
Oh,
or redevelopment of certain properties.
I wonder if you actually want to not give examples with the idea that maybe in the discussion, people would actually bring up other ones.
sure.
I don't know,
That's kind of why I left it
cause we are
off,
specific in the survey
That's
about
fine.
examples.
cause I started with adding examples and then I took it off for that reason. Cause I thought maybe there's a property that,
We're not really thinking about.
exactly,
The one other issue or question that I did have, but, I don't know where you put it in, but is where people feel on a sort of a offshore wind interconnection.
Is that with our grid, you mean? The
Yeah.
proposals that for using the grid.
Yeah, the stuff the state's talking about without talking to us.
well, they're not there yet either.
Why, I don't
They have
know,
they have to get their approval from the feds to even start the process.
Right.
Before they start talking to anyone.
I just don't like the fact that I've seen our town's name on presentations from several years ago and.
they're not there anymore.
No, I think it's, this whole, never mind.
Yeah.
This is all
I'll
another.
ask you about it.
Never-
some other time.
But,
It falls under.
my
renewable energy.
point is, as an economic developer, I feel like the town though needs to start doing some due diligence on planning, preparing for this. So we need to decide, start either talking to our attorney about, if people are interested in this, right? We need to find out people support it, right? If they don't support it, so we need to know either or, right? And then if they don't support it, we need to like find a way to make our ordinances, make it more difficult. To have that happen, or if they do support it, then we have to make it sort of grease the wheel a little bit to try to make it happen.
I 100% agree with you. I worry putting it in here as a separate thing is slightly blows up a category.
Okay,
Like, I don't know if we wanna get. Cause I think people have opinions.
And it is also that,
Sure.
again, it goes back to. We're not asking on specific projects yet.
Right.
We will get there, but renewable energy would cover solar, like grid level battery storage, offshore wind. So I think you are capturing it in a broad way through this bucket exercise.
Okay.
But I don't think you wanna ask the question like, do we want to support this or not? Because that's gonna be a much longer conversation.
We'll probably have to have separate workshops on that outside of the comp plan. I would expect if it moves forward. Okay.
Okay, so I will add under workforce in parentheses, training, childcare, et cetera.
Okay.
Anything else under people in place, and then what do we think of land use
What do we think? Oh,
as a bucket? We don't have to do it, it just
Well, I
was,
think we need it, the comp plan had a whole chapter on it.
we do, we're not talking about future land use yet, this would be more like, do we wanna put money into updating ordinances? Does our, ordinance book need to be overhauled? Do we wanna ensure that we're still directing growth into our existing growth areas? Is the current development consistent with community's vision? And then I just threw in permitting and code enforcement. We will have a whole separate workshop on land use down the road. Especially now that we're adding education, I don't know if we want to swap one for the other or have now 10 bucket.
I would lean towards swapping now.
It's, yeah.
particularly if we're gonna have a whole separate workshop on it.
How are others feeling?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. How about you, Peter?
We're getting rid of the language.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, to me, it's very vague and, which is what you want, I understand.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, but when we start talking about ordinances and code enforcement, I think that, that would be somewhere else.
Well, then I think we need to put up under public facilities and services, something. I don't know, permitting, code enforcement,
Yeah, you could put-
development. Line, something that covers sort of that plan and development, department, sort of.
Yeah, you could put code
codes, codes, well, even me, and then I think,
Do you wanna get in the weeds though, in the sense of like, for public facilities and services, I think, one of the burning question we have is like, do you want to lower these services? And then if they need this, they're like, oh, we can get rid of our code enforcement officer, which you really can't.
yeah,
Same with your planning board, like, those are things you have to have. So are we going to confuse?
well, we have to have a
Attendees
transfer station by law. We have to provide solid waste services, we have to provide a school system. To some degree, we have to provide education.
Right, but it's different in terms of there's more options for how you do that. I feel like we could take it off.
Alright.
So,
So you're substituting education bucket?
For the, yes, yeah,
Yeah,
So we'll still have 9.
That's plenty.
yeah.
Exactly, because you guys are gonna be tallying some bucks here. Okay, well, I will make these changes and start putting together the headers. And then I think the only last wordsmithing is Erin, you'll have to send me your updated statement tomorrow. And then I will make those big posters with the statements we've come up with, and I will start making the bucket headers and come up with the container in which our money will go in. And have everything ready to go for Saturday.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Glad you've done it before.
regardless, an amazing amount of work. So
It
I
is.
Appreciate it.
You're absolutely welcome. I enjoy it. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're gonna have a huge turnout and excited to see how people respond, and I hope they enjoy it. Fingers crossed.
And if the weather's not that great, we've got a better chance.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
So,
If someone on the third grade, can I ask when, Cheryl, when future meetings might be? Not,
Future workshops?
yeah.
I don't know that answer yet. I think part of it will be, how does this one go? And like, did we end up with more questions than answers, which is usually the case. But the committee will then be working on their inventories through, I'd say the first half of the summer. I know we were thinking like by the end of June, we wanted them at least
And,
rough draft.
The survey closes June 30th, so hopefully we'll have a little bit of direction there in terms of where we need to dig in workshops. So,
Okay, but this is the only kind of like. You're not planning like 2 or 3 of this style of workshop that could just be it, like, I know, for example, a lot of business owners like. Saturday afternoon before Mother's Day, a lot of shops like, well, gotta be open,
Right.
so.
yeah,
And that's a great point. I think we do have the survey, which gets to similar issues, and hopefully they're willing to take the survey. I think we can also probably, take in feedback if people wanna.
yeah, and kind of the hope, at least my hope, is that everybody makes it to at least one of the workshops / takes the survey. So you've got at least a couple points of feedback. Like, I'm not expecting because we also talked about doing this on an evening, but that counts out others too, like it's.
No,
So-
no day and time is perfect.
And I expect we'll move around the workshop times for ones afterwards, so they're not all on a Saturday afternoon. So. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sure, I will see you all Saturday.
Yeah. And our next meeting is. Let's see. Be June 12th. Second Wednesday, so send out a reminder. All right, thank you.
You all do cool.
Sorry.
This is really.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're a young person, so thank you for having me.